Welcome back to America Right Now. I'm Tom Basile. Over the last year, Americans have demonstrated pretty clearly they're fed up with DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, one of the top mantras of the woke politics of the American left. Of late, there's been a lot of high-fiving over the ending of DEI programs at major corporations like Ford and Coors, Lowe's, Boeing, Walmart, Costco, Tractor Supply, even Jack Daniels is getting rid of it. Some universities are also dialing back their allegiance to these policies as well. Many courageous Americans have made it their mission to expose this systemic discrimination. Many have voted with their wallets and at the ballot box to push back. They took on the DEI complex at great risk to their jobs, reputations, and personal lives. But Americans fighting this fight should be careful not to celebrate prematurely. DEI is far from DOA. That would be to ignore the designs and the pattern of behavior of the American left. The left in this country has no problem violating the Civil Rights Act by pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion. But DEI, of course, is not really a new phenomenon. What started out decades ago as quotas then became affirmative action. Remember that? Because it sounded better, much like the way leftists use the term progressive today rather than liberal or socialist. After a time, then, affirmative action got a makeover as diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, which in the post-Obama era became a more militant form of affirmative action. DEI this time around also had close cousins and confederates such as critical race theory, white fragility, gender fluidity, and even cancel culture. There will be another incarnation of this movement. Don't be fooled. They may not call it DEI, but they will call it something. Now, sure, many of the overpaid DEI corporate human resources czars and lecturers and experts who have made a fortune hawking their divisive secular religion will face some setbacks, but they're not just going to go away. Throughout the course of American history, the most atrocious examples of injustice have come when society or the law have chosen to focus on immutable characteristics like race. Pro-freedom Americans must always appreciate the deliberate control the left attempts to have over the language that we use. We've talked about it on this show before. And we're seeing it right now again with the debate over so-called book bans. Even conservatives are yet again falling for the trap. They're using the misleading term coined by the left to demonize efforts to remove essentially pornography and inappropriate material from school and public libraries. The book ban moniker was intentionally chosen to harken back to the days of the Nazi book burnings. Of course, the books aren't banned. You can still buy them, you can still sell them, write them, own them, and read them. Those facts and long-standing and completely legal practices of place and time and manner restrictions on certain speech, of course, don't matter to Democrats who want this perverse material in schools. Now, the same people who came up with that scheme are the ones who came up with DEI and have a legacy media calling illegal immigrants irregular migrants. Our founders struggled with the issue of slavery and race, evidenced in part by both George Washington and Thomas Jefferson's strong discomfort with the institution. The father of the Constitution, James Madison, said of slavery, quote, "If slavery as a national evil is to be abolished and it be just that it be done at the national expense, then the amount of the expense is not of paramount consideration." His point was very clear, that removing what he called, quote, "a sad blot on our free country" was well worth perceived societal costs. Americanism, however imperfectly executed, has never truly been about using race or gender or who you sleep with as a fulcrum against equality. You know, in a diverse nation as this one, it is inevitable that differences cause friction, resentment, or even active efforts at discrimination. Those who have been actively victimized in this country include many people, including white Americans, Irish and Italians, Asians, including the forced internment of Japanese Americans and Chinese Americans, among others. The left has attempted to infuse identity politics into virtually every aspect of American life, and this movement, mark my words, is far more than a political fad. In December, A federal appeals court rebuked even the NASDAQ and its CEO, Adena Friedman, for attempting to force gender, race, and sexual orientation quotas on the boards of the companies listed on the exchange. As Americans begin 2025, having made some important progress against DEI, no one should let their guard down for an instant. As a nation built on equality, not equity, we must keep pushing back against those who wish to forever splinter and weaken this country, those who want to reduce people to labels or thin veneers, not celebrate them as unique souls with depth and agency. Federal legislation and executive orders from President Trump must clarify that discrimination is discrimination, and DEI is against the law. Battles have been won for sure, but the fight for a nation where character and hard work are the barometer of success is far from over.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.